Okay, we're live. Ready? Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Sudanandana Braja Janaranjana Sudanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jai Hurad Umarva Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paramanikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charana the Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiveda Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Majuranam Ki Jai Jagadata Sami Ki Jai Munamai Ki Jai Shimani Lasidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Om. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so I guess I open up the book to 6th canto, 2nd chapter, text 7. Sound right or what?
Yes. Or another thing, what about doing Ram Katha?
That's it, it's finished.
You were not here?
Yeah. But it's all online. Let's read Bhagavatam.
677 is that?
627.
627.
So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, and I'll just read the text. Ayam hi krita nirvesho janma kocham hasamapi yadvya jahara vivosho nama swaschayanam harahe. What?
I am
Oh, you have it. Right, go. All right.
Sorry.
Who's going to go first?
Probably you wanted to go, yeah. That's okay.
So you all have
Oh,
it.
no, wait, okay. I am Hikita Nirvesho.
I am
Krita
Nirvesho.
Janma Koti Aham Samapi.
Janmakoti Ahasamapi
Yad Vyajahara Vivasar.
Yadvyajahara Vivaso
Nama Swastiyaya Nam Hare.
Yanam harahe.
I am he krita nirvesho.
I am the krita nirvesho.
Janma koti amahasamapi.
Janmakoti Ahasamapi
Yad vyajahara vivaso. Nama swasti ayanam hare.
Nama swasyayanam harahe.
I am he krita nirvesho.
I am the krita nirvesho.
Janma koti amhasamapi.
Yanako jamsamapi.
Yat vyajahara vivaso.
Yat yavajahara vivasho.
Nama swasti ayanam hare.
Nama swasyayanam hare. Okay? So we'll do the word by word synonyms. I am this person a Jamil.
This
person Ajamil
He indeed Krita Nirvesha has undergone all kinds of atonement.
has undergone all kinds of atonement.
Janma births.
Births
Koti
Koti
of millions.
of millions.
Ong Hasam
Ahasam
for the sinful activities.
for the sinful activities.
Api
Api
even.
Yat
Because.
because
Vyajahara
Vyajahara
he has chanted.
He has
chanted
Vivashaha
Vivashaha
in a helpless condition.
in a helpless condition.
Nama
Nama
the holy name.
the holy name.
Swastiayanam
Swastyayanam
the means of liberation.
the means of liberation.
Hare of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So translation. Ajamil has already atoned for all his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but for those performed in millions of lives, for in a helpless condition he chanted the holy name of Narayana. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Yamadutas had considered only the external situation of Ajamil. Since he was extremely sinful throughout his life, they thought he should be taken to Yamaraj and did not know that he had become freed from the reactions of all of his sins. The Vishnudutas therefore instructed that because he had chanted the 4 syllables of the name Narayana at the time of his death, he was freed from all sinful reactions. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following verses from the Smriti Shastra. Namno hi avati shakti papa nirharane harahe tavat kartum nishaknoti pavakamam pataki naraha. Simply by chanting the holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. That's from the Brihad Vishnu Purana. Avashennapi yannamne kirtite sarvavatakahe puman vimuchyate satya singha trashtaya mrigariva. If one chants the holy name of the Lord even in helpless condition or without desiring to do so, all the reactions of his sinful life depart, just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. That's from the Garuda Purana. Sakreducharitam yena harir ichaksharadhoyam apada parikarastena mokshaya gamanam prati. By once chanting the holy name of the Lord, which consists of the two syllables Ha-ri, one guarantees his path to liberation, Skanda Purana. These are some of the reasons why the Vishnu Dutas objected to the Yamadutas taking a Jamil to the court of Yamaraj. So again, the verse. Ayam hi krita nirvesho janma kochang hasang vapi ayadvijahara vibasho nama swasjayanam harahe. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tezbai Shika Vedamha. Now you also notice when I chanted this verse, I followed the rules of Sandhi. So when the second line, when it says Kot I Amasam, I pronounce it Kot Yong Hasam. So whenever you have, let's say, a Y at the end and a vowel at the beginning of the next word, you actually run it into one word. So I noticed nobody did that except for me. Anyway, just a little bit of Sanskrit pronunciation. It should be Janma Kochang Hasam Api. And that we keep with the rhythm. Otherwise you don't have the right rhythm. So, anyway, so this particular verse is about Nam Abash chanting. So Nam Abash chanting means chanting meaning something else, jokingly, derisively, any way that you chant the holy name and you don't mean the holy name, you mean something else. Like the example that I sometimes use is the Ramada Inn. Actually, it's a motel chain or a hotel chain. I don't know if you have it here in Australia like that. So someone chants that, Ramada Inn. Or the example used in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is that when a Muslim is being attacked by a boar, he chants, Ha Ram, O Ram. So this particular understanding of the Namabas chanting is actually quite important, and it's stressed in many different places. Now you're talking about the Valmiki Ramayana or the Ramayana. So of course we all know the story how Valmiki was tricked into chanting the name of Ram because he was chanting Mara, Mara, Mara. And even being tricked into chanting the holy name of Ram, he became a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now it's interesting. Let us contrast what's happening here with Ajamil with Valmiki's story. Because Valmiki became a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas in this particular story, Ajamil at this point doesn't become a pure devotee of the Lord by chanting. Because Ajamil is chanting Namabash, but not under the instructions of a pure devotee. He has not received what we call the Shuddhanam. Because chanting Namabash can give you liberation, but not pure devotional service. So what do we mean by liberation? Because oftentimes the devotees are confused with the difference between liberation and devotional service. So liberation in this particular context means freedom from karma. Bad karma, good karma, all the different varieties of karma. That's what liberation means. So that's the same thing that one gets if one goes to the Rath Yatra festival. One gets liberated. It's not that necessarily one will go back to Godhead. Of course, their devotional services started from chanting Namabas, and they're liberated, but not that they will necessarily go back to God unless they take up devotional service and hear the Shuddha Nam. The Shuddha Nam is given, the pure name, is given by a pure devotee, because bhakti can only be given by a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord. Bhakti is not even given by Krishna. As we hear from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, what is that? Brahmanda Brahmate Konna Bhagwan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bish, that the living entity is wandering throughout all the different worlds, and somehow or other, by the mercy of Guru, he gets the seed of the creeper of devotion. And then by the process of devotional service, he waters that seed, and the seed fructifies and eventually reaches the spiritual world. So that's extremely important. So what's going to happen with the Jamil here is that he is going to get a new lease on life, as the saying goes. He's had a near-death experience. That's interesting. He's actually had a near-death experience. But when you actually read these different books about people who've had near-death experiences in this world, they're not near-death experiences, because they weren't meant to die. So you find all these different, I'm sure some of you have heard about these different books or stories that people have written, that, I was lying in the hospital bed, and I saw a clear light, or I saw all the angels, or I saw love, or I saw, I don't know what else, saw my grandfather and my grandmother. But that's not actually a near-death experience. The only time you can have a near-death experience is when your karma is at the point you're supposed to die. So those people who basically stop breathing, or they flatlined, as they say. Flatline. You know what that means?
On the screen.
That means you're looking at the screen. I was one time with one of my godbrothers and looking at the screen, and he was in the ICU. And his wife was there, and his wife was saying, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. And she was even using his material name. And I was thinking, if he flatlines, I'm kicking this lady out. He said, get the hell out of here, lady. You're sending him to another birth, Oh, Jeff. Oh, Jeff. Yuck. So anyway, people sometimes, they do flatline and they're brought back to life. They take out the shock device, comes back. But that's not a near-death experience, because they're not supposed to die. Neither the Yamadutas, the Vishnudutas, or the politicians come for them. Or their wife comes for them. Because they're not supposed to die. So it has nothing to do, their experience has nothing to do with what actually happens at the time of death. Does everyone understand the logic? Because karmically, it's not there. So what they're experiencing is the different brain interactions, the different parts of the brain that are being stimulated. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. But here, a Jamil is experiencing a real near-death, full death experience, not a near-death, because he actually died. You understand?
Yeah.
So, according to the law of karma, he actually died. And then you have the Vishnudutas who save him. So anyway, so the point is, he got liberated, got a new lease on life, but he doesn't go back to Godhead at this point. He has to go to Haridwar and take shelter of pure devotees. Because Namabash will not get you back to Godhead. And therefore, at that point, the same Vishnudutas come, after he's taken shelter and chanted purely, the same Vishnudutas come, and then they take it back to Godhead at that point. So, it's pretty much indirect right here. And then we can contrast that with the Valmiki story. You know, he got the Shudanam, and he was chanting under the direction of a pure devotee, even though he was meaning something else. But the pure devotees, the Sapta Rishis, you know, the 5 Rishis, gave him instruction. And therefore, he didn't have to go anywhere else. He just chanted Ram, 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 and became a pure devotee. And he saw Lord Ram's pastimes in his own heart. Another instance of this occurring when one gets the mercy of a pure devotee is the story of Haridas Thakur and the prostitute. So the prostitute, obviously, she had ill intentions. She was romantic. Anyway. But she had ill intentions. And her intention was to cause Haridas Thakur to fall down. And so she started chanting in imitation of Haridas Thakur, but because she got the Shuddha Nam, she became repentant, and then she got the mercy of Haridas Thakur to become a pure devotee of the Lord. So you see the difference between, you know, Jamil's story and the story of the prostitute and Haridas Thakur, and the story the story of Valmiki Muni. So you got quite a bit of difference happening here. So the point is that we are very fortunate to get the pure name from Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's followers. And if we chant the pure name purely, not only do you have to get the pure name, but you have to chant it purely. And in order to chant it purely, I mean, there's so many instructions about avoiding the 10 offenses and chanting with the mood of devotion, crying out for Krishna. And in this way we are assured of success. So anyway, so we'll keep it short. Any questions or comments on any of these points? Yeah, you can.
I was actually thinking, Guru Maharaj, what are the chances of a person experiencing full knee death, like a Jamila,
Yeah.
and then again practicing bhakti yoga?
The chances, well, if someone calls out the name of God at the time of death, yeah. Like let's see, who called out the name? Oh yeah, Gandhi called out the name of Ram at the time of leaving the body. So he probably got a good chance. He said, Ram!
Maybe it's due to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada.
Gandhi, due to the mercy of
Because
Prabhupada? No, Gandhi was actually
Yeah,
already,
Prabhupada
he was
knows
already
the
chanting
lesson,
Ram's name.
right?
But he didn't, the point is he didn't believe that there was ever such a person as Krishna, at least. Gandhi was, anyway, whatever he was. I don't want to offend anybody who's watching the class. Great soul. Deshbhakta.
Krishna.
Not Krishna Bhakta. He was Deshbhakta. I mean, he is a hero. So we glorify someone for what they are.
He started going to like kirtans.
What's that?
He started going to kirtans.
That's
and all
nice.
that, yeah,
That's nice.
after hours.
So anyway, so that's why we try to get people to chant by Krishna's names by trick. Prabhupada said that's why we also give spiritual names to people. So even if a husband and wife are arguing, they're just chanting Krishna's name. Oh, Radha! Oh, Krishna, I can't stand you! This way you're chanting, isn't it? It's nice. And Prabhupada very much appreciated, even when there were articles written in the newspaper, which who knows if they're newspapers still. But anyway, where they were critical of the Krishna conscious movement, where they were chanting or saying, those Hare Krishnas did this, those Hare Krishnas did that, because they were chanting Namabash. So it's our business to get people to chant. And as I mentioned many times before in class, I have this one disciple in the UK who gets people to chant Gauranga. You probably know that. And she goes around and pastes things on the mailboxes and all over, and has these little stickers and Gurunga cookies, and everybody in her whole town knows her. So that's a devotee's compassion, to get everybody to chant. And this was brought out in the conversation between Haridas Thakur and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Ansha Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is basically where we left off when we were doing the Chaitanya Charitamrita classes. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being Patita Pavana, was very much concerned about the plight of the conditioned soul. So he said to Haridas Thakur, how to save all the yavanas. Yavanas means people who eat meat, basically. How to save all the yavanas. And Haridas Thakur assured him the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will save all the yavanas. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, what about the inanimate living entities, like the trees and the plants and all the other inanimate living entities? And Haridas Thakur replied that the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra will actually save these inanimate living entities, and the echo that one hears is the chanting of the inanimate living entities. In a previous class I described, one may say, how can a tree chant? Well, if you chant or sing or make any sound vibration, and it'll bounce off different items. It'll even bounce off the wall. You can get the wall to chant Hare Krishna. It's very subtle because the wall usually absorbs about 99% of the sound. But there's some bouncing off the wall. So the wall will become a devotee in the next life. No, the wall is not a person. But the trees, so in other words, the trees are responding to the chanting because there's some aspect of the sound vibration that bounces off of them and bounces back. And that is the chanting of the inanimate living entities, and they get liberated. So the devotees are very compassionate. Simply by chanting, they're liberating all the living entities who are in that particular area. So, any other questions?
Okay, now.
Yeah, Jampriya.
So those who chant, say they have a different religion, for example, the Muslims, they
Yeah.
say Allah.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And then do they have a destination where they go somewhere, or they like take another life? And
It depends on how devoted they are, how pure they're chanting.
so they can
Purity is
Hare
described
Krishna.
as anyabhi lashata shunyam jnana karmana vratam anukuyena krishnanushilam bhaktirutamam. It's described as having no other motivation, either subtle or gross, including liberation. And also completely doing what God wants, doing it with devotion. That's the definition of purity. If they don't have that purity, they're not going back to God. But that's still Namabhas chanting. It's a secondary name of God. Allah means God is great. It's not a personal name.
No.
The name Krishna is personal, the name Rama is personal, but the name of Allah is not. It's like saying, oh my God,
Oh.
or Yahweh, or some other name like that.
Do they get a chance to say that they've been doing that with sincerity?
Yeah, why not?
They can become a Hare Krishna devotee in the
Why
next
not?
life, yeah?
Why not? Because if they do it in this life, they'll get killed.
Yeah.
I take Mahaprasad to my doctor, he's Muslim.
Yeah.
I give it to him. I talk to him and now he starts chanting because he sees me chanting.
So he's chanting.
So now he's chanting, he goes, you're good, you're very good. And so I just like talk to him all the time when I go to him.
So we encourage people to
Yeah.
chant in their own religion. We're not trying to impose a particular name on people.
I have a Muslim friend, and when I visited her, because she knows I won't eat anything in the house, they cook beef. But she's like my childhood friend from kindergarten up till now. She gave me, she said, what am I going to give you to eat? And she gave me your Mahaprasadam because she went, she's a Muslim, went into her neighbor's house and got the Hare Krishna devotees contact. Went and found some devotee who had your nuts. And when I visited her house, she gave me your Mahaprasadam.
Wow. And that's why you're a devotee today. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
I forgot my question, sorry. Yeah, so you know how you mentioned we can actually trick people into chanting holy name?
Yeah.
Right, so on that note, if the person's like in the mode of ignorance, you know, really tamagone people, so isn't it like offensive or should we discriminate?
No. Why is it offensive? You just don't tell people all aspects of the philosophy.
Is
That's
this
why we
you
don't
change
preach the
their
glories of the holy
offenses?
name to those who are faithless, but we still get them to chant.
Yeah.
You don't tell them, if you chant, you get rid of your bad karma.
Yeah.
Because
But
then
if they're really ignorant, you know, and then, you know...
get them to chant. We go to the bars and get people to chant in the bars.
Because it says, you know, we
Devotees
should
go
not...
out in Harinam and get all the drunkards to
we
chant.
used to go to McDonald's. We used to go inside the McDonald's in the
Yeah.
city
Oh
and
my
chant.
God.
No, I only said that...
We used to just go around
Yeah.
inside and out.
Yeah, I only said that because we have the 10 offenses, right? So one of them... was
No,
that we
it's
should-
to instruct the glories of the holy
Yeah,
name.
glories of the holy name. Yeah,
We get everyone to chant,
Yeah.
but we don't tell them certain things. In other words, not only do we not tell them about the karma they got to relieve from, but we don't tell them about the gopis. We don't
Yeah,
tell them
yeah.
about
Yeah.
anything because they commit offenses.
Correct, yeah.
They'll either misuse the information
Yeah.
or they'll commit offenses.
Yeah.
So you have to use discrimination.
Mm.
You tell people what they can hear without committing offenses. That's all.
Yeah.
Just chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Give people prasadam. It's not offensive. We have to be compassionate.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, even if the biggest demon was here, Ravana was here, we ask him to chant. He wasn't able to chant Ram's name.
Okay.
You know, anytime someone would say, you know, Shri Ram, he'd get angry, isn't it? Actually, this is an interesting point that people who are grossly sinful, they'll have a lot of difficulty in chanting
Yes.
the name of Krishna. Now, I've told the story the other day, because some of you may have heard it, that when I first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, my mother couldn't say the name of Krishna. Even there was one devotee, there, and she's still around, her name was Krishna Priya. And I introduced her to my mother and said, this is a nice devotee, Krishna Priya. And my mother said, Priya. She couldn't say Krishna. So it took about 5 years before she could say Krishna. I mean, she was really upset at Krishna for taking her son away. You know, after 5 years, 5 or 10 years, then she started coming to Rath Yatra and she started to appreciate Krishna consciousness. At one point, she wanted to deprogram me. She actually, after she passed away, I told the devotees this before, I found a correspondence between her and the deprogrammers. And they were saying, you know, we can take care of your son and save him. And had they come to try to save me, I would have felt sorry for them. I would have given them such a hard time. They would have stopped their deprogramming. But anyway, but it took her time. And after that, she, even, of course, we told the story of how she passed away, and she was here in the holy name, and a devotee was with her, nobody else was with her. And so, but even about a year before she passed away, I was having a conversation with her, you know, calling her regularly. And she said, my son, I have something to reveal to you. I said, what? She said, I'm a Hare Krishna. No, she... And I said to her, guess what, Mom? I am too. and she said, wow, I didn't know that. Because she had some, anyway, she was suffering at the end, like that. But Krishna took care of her.
Yeah.
Krishna takes care of the relatives when, when they have devotees as their relative. Krishna takes care of them. We should be assured of that. Even if we can't directly get them to take up Krishna consciousness, Krishna will take care of them. All right. No other questions?
You said about liberation.
Liberation.
When somebody goes to Gatha
Yeah.
So what does it actually
And they start their devotional service. That liberation means they become free from karma.
So they still have to do the effort.
Yeah. It's not the ego. Jai Jagannath. And they jump under the cart, you know. And get squished. And back to Godhead, you know. I thought I could go back to Godhead by getting squished by the wheel, Lord Jagannath. I'd do it immediately. But you won't. You won't be able to do that. Even you have that story of Sanatana Goswami who was going to end his life because thought he was committing offenses, you know, with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, you know, if I thought I could become Krishna conscious by giving up this body, I'd be prepared to give up millions of bodies. So, you know, we don't advocate suicide. So anyway, yeah, that's the liberation that one gets. Namabas chanting or going to the Rath Yatra. Of course, going to the Rath Yatra starts your devotional service too. And Namabas chanting starts your devotional service. You know, it's not just liberation. You're actually, as long as you're getting the name from a pure source. Like if you're listening to some of these famous kirtan people on the internet who are eating meat and have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, it will not start your devotional service. It's still Namabas, but it won't start your devotional service. Devotional service is started when one gets the Bhakti Lata Bij. You know, I give you that example many times. The first time I heard Prabhupada on the radio, it just started my devotional life. I was listening to the radio, I heard the Happening album in 1968 or something. And my whole life changed. Just by little association with Prabhupada.
Can I ask
Yeah.
one last question?
One last question.
So, till tomorrow. Just to follow up from Prabhu regarding the Rath Yatra thing. So, for the devotees who are initiated and
Yeah.
doing devotional service, if they're, for instance, doing some like Rath Yatra, for example, you know, this additional devotional service. So, all their prabdha and aprabdha.
All the
sins
prarabdha, karma.
all of them get.
Even by anybody who hears the holy name, the prarabdha karma, the aparabdha karma, the kuta, the bija, all gets.
No residue. Or,
There's a residue. It's like a fan slowing down.
Okay.
That's what Prabhupada described. We've all experienced that when we first come to Krishna consciousness. This fan is still spinning.
Mine's
Then
been
it momentum, and it gradually slows down. All right.
Thank you.
So make one. I have to do my DD's puja, and we'll see everybody later. All glorious to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.